What's up, guys? Good to see you. Thanks for clicking on this video. And today I'm going to share with you my experience over the last 13 years working at the youth center, or should I say the Insane Asylum. And over the course of 13 years, I've had highs, I've had lows, and everything in between. And what I'm sharing with you today is how it all began. I'll begin with the interview with Mr. Mike Sidebottom, who will become my first boss. And when I say first boss, and here's the thing about the youth center, or the Insane Asylum, as I like to call it again, like I previously mentioned, that when it comes to the youth center, there will be a revolving door of bosses when over the course of 13 years. Now, going back to Mr. Mike Sidebottom, or Mike, or Mr. Mike, depending on how long you've known him, but when I first started out there in the beginning, in summer of '98, I actually called him just Mr. Mike, and he was a pretty cool dude. He looked intimidating. When I first met him, he looked like a mean guy, a very intimidating individual. And looking back on it now, Mr. Mike did sort of look like the guy from the show Orange County American Choppers, Paul Teutul Sr., minus the whole anger issues situation deal.
10 years? This is the kind of stuff we've been dealing with for 10 years. Yeah. We're part in this thing. We're involved here. Let me tell you something. Listen, if I wasn't involved, this go to it would burn to the You know what? Get the out of here. And don't bother coming in tomorrow, get you terminated. Good, it's about time.
Fortunately, he turned out to be a big old teddy bear. And over the course of the summer, during summer camp, if I got into trouble or just needed to speak with me, it was all cordial, calm, nothing like what happened there with Paul Teutul Jr. and Sr. So that's a good thing. Anyways, getting back to it with the initial interview with Mr. Mike, who I didn't know at the time was a big teddy bear. Because in my view, I was sitting in front of Paul Teutul Sr., a very intimidating figure. And just a backstory on, for me personally, when it comes to how I act when it comes to job interviews, I babble on, and I have no idea what I say when it comes to being asked questions when it comes to the interview process. And afterwards, I tend to per se black out when it comes to interviews, and afterwards I'm amazed that I was able to make sense at all. So hopefully, in the back of my head after that interview, I was hoping that he would choose me as a youth center counselor. And fortunately, afterwards, he looked straight at me, and as I was sweating on the inside and outside, and completely nervous as my right leg was shaking, as I recall. I remember that for sure. My right leg was shaking, and he looks at me, and with a smile on his face. And this put me at ease right then and there, that he looked at me and pointed at me and said, "I like you." Which ironically is the same thing my now former retired boss said to me with the current position I have now. So that's pretty cool, so to have two bosses years apart saying that after the interview I had with both of them saying, "I like you." So yeah, it was pretty good. It was a pretty good feeling. That good feeling would resonate working that first week as a youth center counselor, being assigned to each age group, the 6 and 7, 8 and 9, 10, 11, and 12 and up. And what the awesome thing about Mr. Mike was that he allowed you after that week to choose which group you want to be in. And after working each age group during that week, that Friday I came into his office just to stick my head in and just to touch base on which age group I wanted to be in. And I just told him straight up I wanted to be in Michael Rawlings' Biggie's age group, because out of the 4 age group leaders, out of 6 and 7, 8 and 9, 10, 11, 12 and up, I would choose Biggie's group, because when I joined his group, there was like a sort of easygoing flow, and that kind of resonated with me. And when it came to Biggie himself, or for those who don't know, his real name is Michael Rawlings, but I called him Biggie. He and I would end up forming a strong friendship, and that friendship would turn into like a strong brotherhood in which we would become best friends, and that would last a long time, 13 years plus. But unfortunately, he passed away, and which is a story for another time. Anyways, getting back to the decision I made when it came to being in Big E's group, and instead of the 6 and 7, 8 and 9 and 12 and up, and he ushered me in, or motioned me in as I was standing in the doorway. He told me to close the door and take a seat for a little bit before I joined Big E's group for the summer camp. And I did, and I just, excuse me, and I shared with him why I didn't choose the other 3 groups. And like I said, with Biggie's, not with Biggie's, but Freeland's age group, they were, like I said, they were good and all, but they were a little handful of being teenagers. But with 6 and 7, 8 and 9, and I'm not throwing anybody under the bus on this, I just was a little apprehensive, and because you gotta remember, I was just a newbie, and I was a young kid back then. So he looked at me in a moment of silence, and it was kind of unsettling, but that wouldn't last long, as he asked me, why would you not want to work with the 8 and 9 or the 6 and 7? And me being very tactful, being a young guy, and not wanting to ruffle any feathers, because I want to work with everybody and be good standing with everybody, because I'm not the type to want to upset anyone or want to, because I was naive back then when it came to working with kids, because it was my first time actually working with kids. I wanted to do a good job. So I basically told him that there were certain counselors in both age groups where he or she or they wanted it their way and only their way, and that caused me to second guess any decision I made. And his response, and I remember it to this day, he told me, don't worry about what others think. Do your job and trust your gut, trust your instincts, because those counselors, they can be a-holes at times. And when he said that, I was kind of stunned, and taken aback, but a little bit amused by what he said, because Mr. Mike may look abrasive or like a mean guy, but he is truthful and honest, and that was reassuring, refreshing at times. And as a boss, that was cool about him. And that's pretty much how I remember that week when it came to that meeting or talking with Mr. Mike. And although it was a pretty good feeling, and although he left the position of director at the youth center and took a job at Blue Angel Recreational Park, he is still the boss, one of my favorite bosses, and continues to be one of my favorite bosses working at the youth center. And as I said, there would be a revolving door of bosses, directors at the youth center, and after working with Mr. Mike, I would eventually work for boss number 2, Miss Monica Vauxhall. And if you ever watched the summer 2000 Kids vs. Counselors basketball game, she took part in it, and she'd become a cool boss. Pretty enjoy working with her. I know the kids enjoyed her, and some of our myself and many of the other my coworkers enjoyed her as well. And she would inevitably take over the lunacy, the craziness, the insanity that is the youth center, or should I say the Insane Asylum, which is a whole other story altogether that will be done for another video for another time. And so with that said, hit like, give a comment, especially to my former kids who are still my kids from the youth center, like Brandon Rutledge. Give your thoughts on what Mr. Mike meant to you, or any of the kids who used to go to the youth center, who still remember Mr. Mike. What'd you think of him? In any case, well, yeah, like I said, he was a good guy overall. In any case, if you're new to this channel and watching any of my videos, hit subscribe. Like always, go to my description page under this video. They're on my social media links, Facebook, Twitter, Yoda's and Blogspot, Chuck Fanfiction, and my DeviantArt page, which is where all my drawings are at. Anyways, hope you have a good day, depending on what time of day you watch this. So with that said, have a good one, guys. Bye.